On the edge of a vast desert on the planet Vierlia, a small tent shimmered in the heat of the twin suns. It was not an ordinary tent. It was made of flexible fibers that glowed softly at night and moved with the wind, almost as if the tent itself were alive. Inside lived Lyra, a tall alien with translucent, silvery skin that reflected the sunlight in gentle waves. She was a mother of 3 children: Kian, the eldest, brave and curious; Sela, the middle child, quiet but clever; and Rin, the youngest, full of energy and mischief. The family had lived on the edge of civilization for years. Lyra's species was known for their ability to feel the emotions of others, a skill that allowed them to survive harsh environments, but also made them vulnerable in crowded settlements where deceit and greed were common. So they stayed away, building their home in the open desert where the only company was the whispering wind and the strange, colorful plants that dotted the sand. Each morning, Lyra would wake her children before the suns rose fully. They would gather water from the crystal springs hidden in the nearby rocks. Kian liked to run ahead, racing the tiny streams of liquid light that ran over the sand, while Sela would carefully collect the plants that could provide both food and energy. Rin often tried to imitate his older siblings, sometimes falling into the soft dunes with a laugh that echoed across the desert. After breakfast, Lyra would teach her children the skills they needed to survive. She showed them how to sense the desert creatures before they approached, how to read the stars to know the time of day, and how to find safe shelter when the desert storms blew in. The children were eager students. Kian had a particular talent for running across the dunes without disturbing the small creatures that lived there. Sela was quick to understand the healing properties of the plants, and Rin was curious about everything, from the glint of sunlight on the sand to the shape of clouds in the twin suns' sky. Life was simple, predictable, and safe. That is, until the day a human appeared. Kian had been exploring a distant dune, chasing a streak of light that shimmered across the sand, when he spotted something unusual. A figure, unlike any creature he had ever seen, stumbled across the dunes. The human skin was pale compared to theirs, and his limbs moved awkwardly in the thick sand. Kian froze, unsure whether to approach or retreat. His mother had often warned him about strangers. Humans were rare on Vierlia, and the stories he had heard from wandering traders always spoke of humans as unpredictable, sometimes dangerous. Kian ran back to the tent, his heart pounding. "Mother, there's someone out there." "A human," he said, his voice trembling with excitement and fear. Lyra's silvery eyes narrowed. She felt the pulse of fear and exhaustion radiating from the figure. Using her empathic ability, she reached out carefully, sensing not aggression but confusion and pain. Still, she was cautious. "Stay inside," she instructed. "Do not come out. We must see if he is a danger." The 3 children huddled in the tent, peeking through the translucent walls. They watched as the human collapsed at the edge of the camp, struggling to move. He coughed and gasped, his chest heaving with effort. Kian's curiosity battled his fear. He wanted to rush to him to see what he looked like up close, but he obeyed his mother. Lyra stepped outside, her movements slow and deliberate, showing no hostility. She raised her hand slightly, a signal of peace. The human flinched, his eyes wide, unsure what to make of her. He spoke in a language the children did not understand, his words rapid and strange. Lyra listened to the rhythm of the sounds, focusing on his emotions rather than the meaning. Fear, pain, and exhaustion were clear as daylight. Carefully, she reached out, guiding him to a shaded area near the tent. The human skin glistened with sweat, and his clothes were torn from the harsh desert winds. Lyra produced a small vial of crystal-clear liquid and offered it to him. He hesitated, then drank eagerly, his hands shaking. "Mother, is he safe?" Sela whispered, her voice trembling with both fear and wonder. "I do not know," Lyra admitted softly, "but he is in need, and we will not turn away someone who is hurting." Over the next few hours, the human slowly regained his strength. Lyra observed him carefully, watching his movements, listening to his heartbeat, sensing his emotions. His name, she learned, was Dr. Elias Carter, an explorer and scientist from a distant planet called Earth. His ship had crash-landed on Violia while he was studying the planet's unique energy sources. The children watched with wide eyes as Lyra taught Elias how to rest, how to conserve energy, and how to avoid the dangerous parts of the desert. Kyan was fascinated by the way Elias used tools, small devices that could detect heat and measure the winds. Sella was intrigued by his books and papers, though she could not yet understand the human language. Rin simply watched, his imagination filled with possibilities, imagining a world beyond their tent. Despite her caution, Lyra found herself feeling a connection to Elias. He was different from the humans she had heard about, curious, careful, and respectful. He asked questions, listened to her answers, and seemed genuinely interested in learning. His presence was strange, but it was not threatening. Days passed. Elias slowly adapted to life in the tent. He learned how to move quietly across the dunes, how to identify the edible plants, and how to sense the small creatures that roamed the sands. He showed the children small tricks from his world, how to create a compass from simple materials, how to filter water using basic tools. The children were eager students, and even Rin, who had been mischievous and distracted, began to focus when Elias showed him something exciting. One morning, Kyan noticed a faint vibration under his feet. He froze, sensing danger. Lyra immediately joined him, her empathic senses detecting a herd of large creatures moving rapidly across the desert. These were not hostile, but their size and speed could easily destroy their tent. She instructed the children to help Elias secure the tent and gather loose items. Elias, learning quickly, assisted without hesitation. Together, they dug shallow trenches, anchored the tent with energy-absorbing spikes, and reinforced the walls with flexible materials. The herd passed without incident, and Lyra felt a surge of pride. The children had worked together, and Elias had proven himself trustworthy and quick-thinking. That night, under the twin moons, they shared a simple meal. Lyra felt a warmth in her chest, a feeling she had not experienced in a long time. Perhaps life on the fringe did not have to be lonely, but the desert had more challenges in store. Strange storms swept across the dunes, clouds of fine dust and energy particles that could disable even the strongest beings. One evening, as the suns dipped below the horizon, the wind began to pick up. Lyra felt the familiar tremor of a storm forming. She instructed Elias and the children to prepare the tent. Kyan ran to gather the anchoring spikes, Sella worked on securing the plant energy grids, and Rin helped where he could, though he kept stumbling and laughing nervously. When the storm hit, it was fierce. Sand and light particles whipped through the air, blinding and disorienting. The tent groaned under the pressure, but Lyra's careful preparations held. Inside, Elias and the children huddled together, holding hands for comfort. The storm lasted for hours, but at dawn, the desert was calm again. Outside, the tent stood strong, and the family emerged unscathed. For the first time, Lyra looked at Elias not just as a visitor, but as someone who had become part of their lives. He had adapted, learned, and even helped protect them. The children laughed as they explored the dunes again, and Rin declared that the storm had been fun, a comment that made everyone laugh despite their exhaustion. By the end of the first week, life in the tent had changed. The desert was no longer just a home for Lyra and her children. It was now a place where a human and an alien family lived together, learning from each other and discovering that trust, courage, and empathy could bridge worlds. Lyra knew that the days ahead would bring more challenges, but she also knew that with Elias by their side, they were stronger than ever. And somewhere in the vast desert, under the light of two suns and a sky filled with distant stars, a new story had begun. one that would show that even in the most remote corners of the universe, connections could be made, friendships could flourish, and humans and aliens could learn from each other in ways that neither species had ever imagined. After the storm, life in the desert slowly returned to its quiet rhythm. The suns rose and set over the golden dunes, casting long shadows that danced with the wind. Lyra and her children resumed their daily routines, but now Elias was no longer just a visitor. He was part of the small family, learning and teaching in equal measure. Kyan took the lead each morning, exploring farther dunes than before, testing his limits and learning from Elias' careful observations. The human had introduced new tools, small and portable, that could measure wind currents and track energy flows in the desert plants. Kyan was fascinated. He raced across the sands, darting between shrubs and rocks, testing how the wind and sand could carry energy. When he returned, he would share his discoveries with Lyra and the others. Sella spent most of her time with Elias inside the tent, learning to combine her knowledge of the plants with his understanding of science. She had always been clever, noticing the smallest changes in the environment, but Elias taught her a new way to think about cause and effect. Together, they experimented with mixtures of plants and minerals, discovering subtle energy patterns that could help the family in unexpected ways. Sella's quiet determination impressed Elias, and he often remarked on how sharp her mind was. Rin, the youngest, was different. His curiosity seemed endless, and he often wandered too close to the dunes' edges or the strange creatures that prowled at night. Lyra kept a careful eye on him, but Elias also took a protective role, teaching Rin simple rules for safety. Rin was fascinated by Elias' stories of Earth, cities with towering structures, machines that could fly, and lights that never went out. Rin often asked Elias questions that the human had never thought about, making both Lyra and her older children laugh. One afternoon, while the suns hung high in the sky, Kyan ran toward the farthest dunes, carrying a small device Elias had built to measure energy flows. He felt a strong pulse beneath the sand, something he had never noticed before. Curious, he dug carefully, uncovering a small crystal buried just below the surface. Its surface glimmered like sunlight on water. Kyan ran back to the tent, holding the crystal up for everyone to see. "Look, I found something. What is it?" he asked, eyes wide with excitement. Elias took the crystal, examining it closely. His fingers brushed its surface and his eyes lit up. "This is incredible," he said. "I've read about crystals like this, but I never thought I would see one on Violia. It stores energy, a lot of it. If we understand it, it could help you in many ways." Lyra watched carefully, sensing the excitement in both Kyan and Elias. She felt cautious but curious. These crystals were rare, and using them required care. "We must not take it lightly," she warned. "It is part of the desert. We will study it, but we must not disturb its home too much." Elias nodded, understanding her concern. He suggested they create a small, safe space near the tent to study the crystal without harming the desert. Over the next several days, the children learned from Elias how to carefully measure energy, observe changes, and record results. Sella and Kyan took turns monitoring the crystal, while Rin mostly watched, asking endless questions and imagining stories about the crystal's origin. Through these lessons, the family grew closer to Elias. He was patient, never rushing the children, and always explaining why he did things in a way they could understand. He learned from Lyra as well, discovering ways of sensing energy that no human technology could measure. Together, human and alien created a small bridge between their worlds, each learning from the other. But life in the desert was not only about discoveries and learning. One morning, as the family gathered food near the crystal study area, Kyan noticed strange tracks in the sand. They were large, deep, and unlike anything he had seen before. He called the others to look. Lyra knelt beside the tracks, sensing a faint pulse of energy, strong, steady, and very close. "They are approaching," she said quietly. "Something is coming. We do not know if it is friend or foe." Elias examined the tracks carefully. "They are mechanical," he said after a moment. "Machines, probably sent by humans, maybe explorers or worse. We need to be ready." The family quickly prepared. Lyra guided the children in setting up simple defenses using their plants and crystals. Sela arranged reflective leaves to create illusions, while Kyan dug small trenches to redirect the flow of the wind and sand. Rin, under careful watch, helped scatter energy crystals that could warn them of approaching machines. Elias worked with Lyra to set up barriers that could confuse sensors and redirect energy flows to protect the tent. By evening, they were ready. The sun dipped behind the dunes, casting long shadows, and the desert grew quiet. The machines appeared first as small specks on the horizon, then grew larger, moving steadily toward the tent. Kyan's heart raced, but he stayed calm, remembering his mother's training. Sela and Rin huddled close, following instructions without panic. Elias stood beside Lyra, helping to direct the defenses. As the machines neared, they triggered the illusions. Reflective leaves created mirages, making the tent appear in the wrong location. The trenches and redirected winds confused the machine's sensors, and the energy crystals sent misleading signals about movement and temperature. The machine slowed, scanning, but could not locate the real tent. Lyra watched with pride. Her children had applied everything she had taught them, and with Elias' knowledge, they had created a defense stronger than she had imagined. The machines finally retreated, unable to find their target. That night the family gathered around the crystal, exhausted but exhilarated. Elias smiled at them. "You were amazing," he said. "You worked together, stayed calm, and used your skills. I have never seen anything like it." Kyan beamed, Sela smiled quietly, and even Rin looked proud. Lyra's heart swelled. "It is not just skill," she said. "It is trust. We trust each other and we trust our knowledge. That is what keeps us safe." Over the next few days, life slowly returned to normal. Elias continued to learn from the family, and the children continued to learn from him. They explored new areas of the desert, discovered hidden pools of water, and studied small, glowing plants that seemed to respond to human touch. Rin was especially fascinated by one plant that changed color when he laughed. Sela used the plant's energy in her experiments, while Kyan ran across the dunes testing the limits of its energy fields. One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned a deep violet, Elias shared a story with the children about a human city that floated above the clouds. He described towers made of glass and metal, vehicles that moved without wheels, and people from many worlds working together. The children listened with wide eyes, imagining a world beyond their desert, full of possibilities. Lyra watched them, feeling a mix of wonder and concern. The desert was their home, and it was safe, but the stories of other worlds made her children dream. She realized that the human had opened a window to the universe, showing them that life could be more than survival. The next morning, Kyan suggested they explore a canyon he had seen from the highest dune. Lyra agreed, sensing it would be a good lesson for teamwork and observation. Elias joined them, and together they walked through the canyon, studying unusual rocks and energy flows. Kyan and Sela carefully mapped the area, while Rin ran ahead, pointing out strange plants and insects. Suddenly, Kyan stopped. He had felt a pulse, faint but unmistakable, coming from deeper in the canyon. It was similar to the crystal near their tent, but different, older, stronger. Elias approached, studying the readings. "This could be a source of energy that the planet has kept hidden for centuries," he said. "If we study it carefully, it could help not just your family, but the planet itself." Lyra sensed the danger. Hidden energy sources could attract attention, and they would need to protect it carefully. "We will study it," she said firmly, "but we will also protect it." No one outside this canyon will know. The children were excited and nervous. Kyan took the lead, feeling the vibrations in the ground, while Sella noted changes in the plant life. Rin, fascinated by the glowing crystals, ran from one to another, careful to listen to Lyra's warnings. Elias carefully measured energy flows, noting patterns and changes, and together, they uncovered a small underground pool of energy crystals, glowing softly in the darkness of the canyon. For the first time, they felt a deep sense of connection, not just to the planet but to each other. Human and alien, child and parent were working together in harmony, each teaching and learning, each discovering new strengths. Lyra realized that the presence of the human had changed her family, not in ways that made them weaker but stronger. As the sun set behind the canyon walls, the family returned to their tent, tired but exhilarated. They had learned more in a single day than in months before. Elias looked at them, a smile on his face. "We are learning together," he said, "and that is the most important thing." Lyra nodded, feeling a warmth she had not known she would feel again. The desert was still harsh, and dangers remained, but for the first time she felt that with Elias, with her children, and with the knowledge they shared, they could face anything. The desert had grown quieter after the canyon discovery, but Lyra knew that peace was often temporary. The pulse of the hidden energy source beneath the canyon was strong, and such energy rarely went unnoticed. She sensed vibrations through the ground that hinted at movement far off, but closing. Kyan, Sella, and Rin were playing near the tent when Lyra noticed it, her senses alert. She called the children to her. "Something approaches," she said calmly, though her skin shimmered with tension. "It is not like the storms or the creatures we know. This is different." Elias knelt beside her, scanning the dunes with the small device he had built. "I see it too," he said quietly. "Humans, machines, they're not explorers, they are hunters." The children looked at him with wide eyes. Kyan clenched his fists. "Hunters? Why would they hunt here?" "We haven't told anyone about the canyon," Lyra nodded. "The energy they sense is too strong to ignore. Some humans will stop at nothing to claim it. We must protect our home." The next hours were spent preparing. Lyra guided the children in reinforcing the tent and setting up warning systems using energy crystals and reflective plants. Sella arranged a network of mirrors and crystal fragments that could create confusing reflections, while Kyan dug trenches and laid sand traps to redirect movement. Rin helped place glowing crystals along the dunes to signal their positions and alert them if machines approached. Elias studied the canyon maps and readings. "We have one advantage," he said. "They don't know the desert like we do. If we use it wisely, we can stay ahead." By nightfall, the machines appeared on the horizon. Their lights glowed ominously, moving steadily across the dunes. Lyra felt a ripple of fear but also determination. The family had trained for moments like this, not against ordinary dangers, but against something that threatened their survival and the secrets of the planet. Kyan ran to the highest dune, watching the approaching machines. "They're fast," he said, "but they're not clever. We can outsmart them." Lyra nodded. "We must work together, trust each other and your instincts. That is our strength." The machines drew closer. Their sensors scanned the desert and their engines churned up clouds of sand. The illusions created by Sella's reflective plants worked at first, making the tent appear in multiple locations. Kyan used the wind patterns to redirect sand into their paths, slowing them down. Rin's crystal signals gave them early warning, and Elias coordinated from the tent, predicting the machine's movements. Hours passed. The family worked tirelessly, using every skill they had learned and every trick they had devised. The desert became a battlefield of shadows, light, and sound, but the human and alien family moved as one, anticipating each other's actions without a word. One machine broke through the first defenses, heading straight for the tent. Lyra's heart pounded, but she remained calm. Using her empathic abilities, she projected fear and confusion into the machine's sensors, creating a delay. Kyan and Sella led the machine into a sand trap where it became stuck, unable to advance. Rin cheered quietly, amazed at how everyone worked together. The other machine slowed, scanning the area. Elias used the energy readings from the canyon to create a diversion, drawing them away from the tent and toward a shallow canyon on the horizon. Kyan and Sella guided the machines using wind currents and illusions, while Lyra focused on protecting the tent. The coordination was flawless, a dance of intelligence, courage, and trust. By dawn, the machines were gone, retreating back into the desert, confused and unable to locate the hidden energy source. The family, exhausted but triumphant, gathered near the tent. Lyra placed her hands on her children's shoulders. "You have done well," she said softly. "This is not just strength or skill, this is unity. Together we are unstoppable." Elias smiled, brushing sand from his clothes. "You have taught me more than I could have imagined," he said. "Not just about the desert, but about teamwork, empathy, and resilience. I have learned that humans are not the only clever ones. Your family, your species, is incredible." Kyan looked toward the horizon, where the sun rose over the dunes, casting golden light across the desert. "We can't stop them forever," he said. "They will come back." Lyra nodded. "Then we will be ready. We will continue to learn, to prepare, and to protect. That is our duty, not just to ourselves, but to this land and its secrets." Over the next days, life became a balance of learning and vigilance. The children continued to explore the canyon, documenting energy flows and discovering hidden pools of crystals. Elias taught them basic principles of physics and engineering, showing them how to measure energy and predict natural patterns. Kyan invented small devices to test the desert wines. Sella experimented with combinations of plant and mineral energy, and Rin discovered small glowing insects that reacted to human presence, which fascinated him endlessly. One afternoon, as they rested near the canyon, a new challenge appeared. A small quake shook the ground, causing loose rocks to tumble. The energy pulses from the crystals shifted, creating a faint but strong signal that traveled across the desert. Lyra realized immediately that the machines could sense it from far away. "We must stabilize the energy," she said urgently. "If we do not, they will come again, and next time they may not fail." Elias agreed. He and the children worked under Lyra's guidance, carefully arranging crystals and redirecting energy flows to reduce the signal. Kyan dug channels in the sand to guide energy into safe patterns, while Sella used her knowledge of plant resonance to dampen vibrations. Rin, guided closely by Lyra, placed tiny reflective fragments to disperse excess energy. By nightfall, the energy pulses were stabilized. The desert was calm once again, and the canyon remained hidden. The family gathered around the crystals, tired but proud. Elias looked at them with admiration. "You have not only protected yourselves but the planet itself. That is remarkable." Lyra smiled faintly, placing her hand on the human's shoulder. "We protect what we love, not just the crystals, not just the desert, but each other. That is what makes us strong." The children huddled close, feeling the warmth of family and the bond they shared with Elias. For the first time, Rin spoke seriously. "I like having Elias here. He helps us and he listens. He's part of us now." Sella nodded. "Yes. He is not like the hunters. He respects us and the desert," Kyan added, "and he's smart. He teaches us things we never knew." Lyra's heart swelled. The presence of a human in their home had changed everything, but not in a way she had feared. Instead of bringing danger, Elias had strengthened their family. He had shown them that beings from different worlds could work together, learn from each other, and protect what mattered most. Over the next weeks, the family continued their routines but with a new purpose. They trained, studied, and explored, always aware that the desert could bring new challenges. Elias worked tirelessly with the children, teaching them strategies, problem-solving skills, and even storytelling, which inspired their imaginations. One evening, as the sun set behind the dunes, Kyan suggested an experiment. "What if we combine the crystal's energy with the plants?" he asked. "We could create a barrier that protects the canyon without making a signal for others to detect." Sella's eyes lit up. "Yes. And we could test the flow patterns, make it change when needed. It would be like the desert itself is hiding us." Elias smiled. "Brilliant idea. Let's try it." Under Lyra's guidance, the family began experimenting. They carefully combined plant energy and crystal resonance, creating subtle shifts in the desert's energy. The crystals glowed softly, reflecting off the plants, and the dunes seemed to hum quietly. They watched as small energy pulses moved through the ground, guiding intruders away without revealing the canyon's location. Rin laughed with delight. "It's like magic," he exclaimed. "Not magic," Lyra corrected gently. "It is understanding. Understanding the desert, its energy, and our place within it." By the end of the night, the barrier was complete. The family stood together, exhausted but victorious. Elias looked around, pride in his eyes. "You've done something extraordinary," he said. "Not just for yourselves, but for the planet. This is HFY, not because humans are stronger, but because together, beings from different worlds can achieve incredible things." Lyra nodded. "Yes, together, that is the lesson. We are not alone, and even the harshest desert cannot break us when we unite." The stars shimmered overhead, and the desert whispered in the wind. The family returned to their tent, stronger, wiser, and closer than ever. The machines might return, the desert might throw new challenges their way, but they were ready. They had proven that courage, intelligence, and unity could protect even the most precious secrets. And for the first time, Elias felt that he had found a home, not just on Violia, but with this alien family who had trusted him, taught him, and shown him what true strength could be. The desert had grown quiet again, but Lyra knew that vigilance was never-ending. The pulse of the hidden canyon and its crystals continued to hum beneath the sands, a soft rhythm that reminded her family of both their strength and their responsibility. The week since the first machines had approached had changed everything. Elias had become an integral part of their lives, and the children had grown more confident, more clever, and more united than ever. Early one morning, before the twin suns had fully risen, Lyra called the children together. "Today," she said, her voice steady, "we will test what we have learned. We will make sure that if any danger returns, we are ready." Kyan's eyes sparkled with determination. He had been practicing new maneuvers across the dunes, learning how to move swiftly without leaving traces, and how to use the desert wind to his advantage. "I'm ready," he said, almost bouncing with energy. Sella nodded quietly. She had been studying the crystals, learning to predict their energy flows and how to combine them with plant resonance to create subtle defenses. "Everything is ready," she said, her voice calm but confident. Rin, the youngest, was eager as ever. "I can help too. I want to see the desert protect us." Elias smiled at the children. "You have all grown so much. I am proud of each of you. Today, we will see how much we can accomplish together." The first test began with the family simulating an intrusion. Kyan ran across the dunes, placing decoy crystals and leaving traces in the sand to lure imaginary machines away from the canyon. Sella adjusted the reflective plants and energy flows, ensuring that the signals would be confusing but harmless. Rin watched carefully, moving small glowing fragments to reinforce the illusions. Lyra observed them, projecting subtle energy patterns to help guide the children without making them aware of her assistance. Elias supervised, taking notes and helping the children understand cause and effect. "See," he said, "if the machines were real, they would follow the decoys and never find the canyon. You've created a defense that is clever, adaptive, and safe." After several hours of testing, they paused to rest. Lyra looked at the children and Elias with pride. We have done well, but there is more to learn. The desert is alive, and we must respect it while we protect it. As they rested, Kyan's keen senses detected movement on the horizon. His heart skipped a beat, but he did not panic. "Something is coming," he whispered, pointing toward a line of distant figures. Lyra's eyes narrowed. She projected calm into the desert, sensing the intention of the newcomers. "They are not like the machines before," she said. "They are cautious. They are observing." Elias squinted at the horizon, using his tools to measure energy readings. "They could be explorers," he said. "Or scientists. Perhaps they are curious about the energy, not here to harm." The family watched silently as the figures drew closer. As they approached, it became clear they were humans, but their posture and actions were different from the machines. They did not move recklessly or make loud noises. Instead, they seemed careful, respectful, and cautious. Lyra stepped forward, her silvery skin glowing faintly in the early sunlight. "We will meet them," she said to Elias and the children, "but only carefully. We cannot assume their intentions are friendly. Trust is earned." The humans stopped at a safe distance. One of them, a young scientist, raised his hands in a universal gesture of peace. Lyra felt the emotion radiating from him: curiosity, respect, and honesty. Carefully she approached, flanked by Elias and the children. "We mean no harm," the human said, his voice calm. "We are researchers. We detected the energy and wanted to study it, but only with your permission." Lyra projected a wave of calm, letting them know she understood their intentions. She then spoke, carefully translating through empathic communication so that the humans could understand. "This energy belongs to the desert," she said. "It must be respected and protected. If you wish to study it, you must do so under our guidance." The humans nodded eagerly, showing gratitude and understanding. Elias stepped forward, explaining to the children that this was an opportunity to teach others about their knowledge and to protect the planet responsibly. "You have learned much," he said. "Now you can show that knowledge to those who respect it." Over the following days, the family worked with the human researchers. Kyan guided them across the dunes, showing them safe paths and how to move without disturbing the desert's energy. Sela demonstrated how to combine plant resonance with crystal energy to stabilize flows and create protective illusions. Rin, full of excitement, shared small discoveries, like glowing insects and subtle energy shifts in the plants. Lyra supervised, ensuring that the energy was never misused and that the researchers respected the delicate balance of the desert. The humans were amazed. They had expected to find raw energy to study, but instead, they found a family that had learned to live in harmony with it. One night, as the sun set behind the distant dunes, Elias gathered the family around the largest crystal near the canyon. "Look at what we have achieved together," he said. "We have protected the canyon, taught others, and strengthened our bond. This is the best of what humanity and your family can do: cooperate, understand, and grow together." Lyra nodded, placing her hands gently on the children's shoulders. "We have faced danger, learned from each other, and protected our home. This is not just survival, it is growth. We are stronger because we trust each other." The children smiled, feeling proud and inspired. Kyan looked toward the horizon, imagining future adventures. Sela thought of new experiments and discoveries, and Rin simply laughed, filled with joy at the possibilities the desert now held. Elias looked at Lyra and the children with admiration. "You have shown me that courage, intelligence, and empathy can achieve more than any weapon or machine," he said. "This is the essence of HFY. Humans are not alone in greatness. Together, we can achieve extraordinary things." As the days passed, the family continued to teach the human researchers about the desert, its energy, and its creatures. The researchers learned to move quietly, to observe without disturbing, and to respect the life around them. In return, they shared knowledge of Earth, tools and techniques that could help the family in subtle ways without harming the balance of the desert. The bond between human and alien grew stronger. Elias became part of the family, not as an outsider, but as a member whose knowledge, curiosity, and kindness complemented their own abilities. The children flourished under this combined guidance, learning not only how to survive but how to thrive, innovate, and explore responsibly. One day, as Kyan and Elias explored a distant canyon, they discovered a small pool of energy crystals, untouched and glowing softly in the desert's shadow. Kyan felt the pulse and smiled. "It's beautiful," he said, "and it's safe. We can protect it together." Elias nodded. "Yes. And we will. This is what we have learned, not just to survive, but to protect, to teach, and to grow." Back at the tent, Lyra watched her children and Elias with pride. The desert, once a lonely and harsh home, had become a place of learning, cooperation, and wonder. The humans and aliens were no longer separate. They were part of a larger story, one that showed the best of both species. The sun set, casting long shadows over the dunes. The crystals glowed softly, the plants shimmered with energy, and the family huddled together, feeling the strength of their bond. For the first time, the desert felt safe, not just because they had defended it, but because they had learned, adapted, and shared their knowledge with others who respected it. In the quiet of the night, Rin whispered, "I'm glad Elias came. We're a team now." Sella nodded. "Yes. And together we can face anything." Kyan looked toward the horizon. "The desert is ours to protect, but we are not alone. We have each other, and that makes all the difference." Lyra smiled softly. She had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, but now she knew that with trust, courage, and understanding, her family could thrive in a universe full of challenges. Elias had come as a stranger, but he had become part of their story, their life, and their strength. The desert whispered around them, the crystals pulsed gently, and the stars twinkled in the sky. The family was together, stronger and wiser than ever. Life on Violia would continue to bring challenges, but they would meet each one united, with hearts full of courage and minds full of curiosity. And so, in a small tent on the edge of a desert, an alien mother and her 3 children, together with a human who had stepped into their lives, proved that trust, empathy, and collaboration could bridge worlds. They had faced danger, embraced learning, and discovered that the universe was not just a place to survive, but a place to grow, to protect, and to shine. In the end, the desert was no longer lonely, the canyon no longer hidden, and the family no longer isolated. They had become a beacon of unity, cooperation, and hope, a testament to what could happen when beings from different worlds chose to learn from each other, protect what mattered, and trust in the power of family, friendship, and courage. And as the twin moons rose above the dunes, casting their soft light across the desert, Lyra, Kyan, Sella, Rin, and Elias knew that together, they could face whatever the universe had in store. An alien mother and her 3 children lived in a tent, until a human stepped in HFY.